Cody Rhodes has proven to be the most influential wrestler of the past decade, leaving the WWE at a very difficult time for it to create a company that would bring it potentially even as close as to its knees, that would see great talent such as Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson now, Adam Cole, Keith Lee and so many more join the ranks, even oversee the return of CM Punk, only to leave that company in ashes in order to return to the WWE as soon as Vince McMahon was out the door. We are going to talk the impact of Cody Rhodes leaving, why he left AEW, why he originally left WWE, and how that is opening a door not just for him, but also for the recent return of CM Punk. Hit the like button and strap yourselves in because this is going to be a rocky one. We start with the biggest name in broadcasting for the continent, the BBC. Now, the UK has the BBC as the premier form of information, publicly funded, and it was such a big deal that this happened that the BBC led with the line, Cody Rhodes reveals WWE frustration in open letter as he quits the organisation on the 23rd of May 2016. This is the moment that this all started, and he even still had a mustache at the time. In his statement, he said, "My goal in pro wrestling has always been to win the WWE Championship. For a decade, I tried to convince both Vince and Triple H that I could be their star player. It seems we have reached a point where neither saw that in me." At the time, Rhodes was wrestling under the guise of Stardust, so I get why nobody saw that in him. Funnily enough, he's still not yet won the WWE Championship, but came very close against Roman Reigns. Next, we go to clutchpoints.com, who state WWE's Cody Rhodes reveals the incident that led to the 2016 departure. Why did Cody Rhodes leave? The American Nightmare opened up. And they've used a very, very handy little speech bubble that definitely happened. Cody quoted his father, a legend in the game, Dusty Rhodes. At 28, I recall particularly he was unhappy with the direction things were going with me and Big Show, and he just thought that I was so close to the keys to the kingdom and they were slipping away, that maybe leaving would wake them to the idea that this is somebody who wanted to captain your ship, and the way you guys are treating him has pushed him out. During a recent interview with Ariel Helwani, Rhodes revealed what ultimately drove him to leave. He says an interaction with a young fan was a rock bottom moment that led to his decision to request his release from the company. There was a lot of rock bottom playing Stardust, Rhodes said. Charlotte Flair brought a fan to a show. She told him, "Hey, do you want to meet Stardust?" And I was just not painted up or anything there earlier in the day, in like my sweats. He came up to me, he's like, "You're Stardust?" And I was like, yeah, and I used to wrestle as Cody Rhodes. And he was like, "What? Who? What do you mean?" He had no idea that I'd won the Intercontinental title or won some tag titles or legacy, nothing. Stardust was his only knowledge of me, and that was a rock bottom moment. Rhodes didn't just leave the company though, he went on a mission to change wrestling forever, starting with Ring of Honor and New Japan, starting with the elite that would become All Elite Wrestling, starting with their precursor, their predecessor, the Bullet Club. Yes, the predecessor of Bullet Club was NWO, so technically we have to give Eric Bischoff some credit, but not as much as you'd think. We can see via Forbes here, former WWE superstar Cody Rhodes joins the Bullet Club. This was the key friendship with Kenny Omega and with the Young Bucks that would result in huge threats against WWE and the Broken Throne moment. We talk about Broken Skull Ranch, how about Broken Throne Cody? Bullet Club member Kenny Omega had teased the announcement of a brand new addition to the stable for this week's New Japan World Tag League event. If you're not aware of the Tag League, it's actually ongoing and you might want to check it out. During the event, Omega introduced the newest member, referring to a video that would reveal former WWE superstar Cody Rhodes, now known as the American Nightmare, as the newest addition to the Bullet Club. For a time, this was the biggest moment in wrestling, primarily because of where it would take us afterwards. Having a top gaijin, which is a reference to just basically a non-Japanese wrestler in New Japan, has a huge impact in general, but we now had a full-on gaijin faction with some top names and someone who was being treated like a star everywhere he went, apart from where he just left the WWE. Now, this has happened plenty of times with a number of different wrestlers. If you treat them like stars, they are stars. You look at Bray Wyatt, for example. Even if he'd lose 70% of his matches, which he did, he still felt huge. Essentially on a challenge from Dave Meltzer, and Dave Meltzer is basically written through the history of the Young Bucks, they launched All In using the help of Ring of Honor. All In was a pay-per-view that originally was not an AEW pay-per-view, that would come later, but it, let's just say, earned its plaudits. This is from ESPN. All In sell out a genuine surprise to Cody Rhodes and the Young Bucks. They were not expecting the level of success that they had. This is from an interview with the Young Bucks who say, We put a lot of work in, said Nick Jackson. Now it's like, alright, we've got to try and enjoy some of this. What we're doing is pretty big. And we may never do it again, added Matt Jackson. That, as we already know, is not the case. They just did Wembley after all. Nick says, you never know though, it is just a crazy success. And you know what? I think it's already a success knowing that we're doing it. A lot of people thought that it was impossible for anyone to run an arena, and you know what? We're doing it, self-promoted, all by us, and the buzz that we got for it, it's been huge. This is the Young Bucks at their best. This is the elite at their best. AEW is not so much a wrestling company by the standard definition of wrestling company, and more a marketing enterprise that features wrestling involved in it. Cody Rhodes was a master at this, as were the Young Bucks, as was Kenny Omega. Something about this group just drew attention, just drew eyes, and the foundations of what would become All Elite Wrestling were built on the Cody Rhodes shoulders. He left WWE to basically say, I will be bigger than you. He very nearly accomplished it. And upon leaving AEW shortly afterwards, which we will be getting into more, he did serious long-term damage on his way out. This is also the point at which Cody Rhodes started to make promises and lay those groundworks for AEW that have not been kept since. The question was for recruiting, is AEW going after experienced wrestlers, up-and-coming wrestlers, or grapplers from the amateur ranks, or will it be a mix? Cody responded, probably a mix. My favourite word here is fresh. I want fresh, people who haven't ever been seen. While there is and was a healthy development of young, fresh talent that hasn't been seen on the top stage, they are also relying heavily on older wrestlers and WWE castaways. Sting has been a basically eternal presence in the AEW ranks, and now they've just brought back Ric Flair. There is an element of disconnect here between the Cody Rhodes vision for AEW and the Tony Khan vision for AEW that would take hold upon the arrival of the eponymous name that throws everything into absolute disarray, CM Punk. What that doesn't change is the impact and the momentum that AEW gained through its association with Cody Rhodes, with Tony Khan, and early on for a number of different wrestlers. I talked about WWE castaways, but some of them genuinely set AEW ablaze. We've talked about Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, for example. Jon Moxley, for me, was the one that gained the most positive attention for AEW. They were built on Chris Jericho, but Jon Moxley is the one that convinced people this is going to be something new, this is going to be something different, because Jon Moxley and Dean Ambrose, very different people. This was also where WWE essentially learned a valuable lesson not to trust people when they tell you they won't be joining the competition. Though his decision not to re-sign with WWE was leaked months before his final date, PW Torch, the company continued to use him in storylines, heavily promoting a farewell tour for The Shield, the group Ambrose created, alongside WWE superstars Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins. Dean Ambrose lost a lot of matches to Drew McIntyre. Many believe WWE did not mind featuring Ambrose because they thought he would either be taking a break from wrestling or simply work in the independent scene. How long it has been since he decided to join AEW is unknown, though considering he was a top free agent on the market, he was a must-get for the upstart company. Pure speculation on my part, but I'll just throw out the Royal Rumble, months before he even left the WWE. The absolute peak for AEW can be tracked to an exact date. August 2021. This is from Sports Illustrated, Justin Barrasso, August 20th, 2021. Former WWE superstar CM Punk debuts with AEW. He was not the only name at the time. The future of WWE was leaving, and AEW at this time was picking up those pieces to build something amazing. WWE was actively bleeding out. AEW was thriving. CM Punk arrived, Bryan Danielson arrived, and the future of wrestling, Adam Cole, arrived. And it did feel like AEW was this close to overtaking WWE. AEW Rampage opened with Living Colours, the Cult of Personality, blasting through the United Center in Chicago, Illinois, a song that has become synonymous with Punk. The response was electric, and Punk then cut a passionate promo in the ring. It felt as though Punk was speaking to old friends, reminiscing about his departure from Ring of Honor in 2005, which he described as the day he left professional wrestling and officially declared this moment in AEW his return. Naturally, I'm going to need you to not tell WWE about that. They've just brought him back. This was an incredible time to be a wrestling fan and really was a pinnacle of the industry as a whole. The year between August 2021 and August 2022, we had two wrestling companies battling week in, week out for dominance, and it felt like an actual war. It felt like AEW week on week were gaining extra momentum, elevating further and further towards the top. Meanwhile, WWE under Vince McMahon was sinking. Big names were choosing to leave. Cesaro would follow this, just running down his contract and walking away. And there was plenty more who weren't happy in WWE, who suddenly, because of Cody Rhodes, had an alternative. Cody Rhodes was offering another option, a different home, another place to be, another way to be. And people were buying into it. The problem was that AEW was no longer the company that Cody Rhodes had himself built. We were starting to see plenty of people joining the company who had been seen plenty of times before, who were actively disruptive, and according to PW Torch, the relationship between Cody Rhodes and his fellow members of the Elite, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks, began to deteriorate. At the same time, the fan base started to turn on Cody, a reminder of the previous generation of WWE and someone who stood directly opposite CM Punk in a negative manner. Shortly afterwards, it became clear that Cody Rhodes wanted out. He was coming towards the end of his contract and the end of the duration of his time there, and it became a problem when he asked for a raise in money. Cody Rhodes was on roughly $3 million, as previously reported, per year, and this did cause some issues when it came to the general layout. Cody Rhodes was not the top earner in AEW. There is precious little information out there, and I've actually put together with an associate of mine called Gleb a actual AEW financial analysis on this channel that I suggest people check out for all of the sourcing of this information. Cody Rhodes and CM Punk were paid roughly the same, around $3 million per year. The problem is they were second in the actual pay scale. Jon Moxley was earning far more than them, and nobody was going to be coming close to him. Jon Moxley at the time was working on a handshake deal, waiting for a raise to be offered, but nobody was being offered raises because AEW was not profitable. This meant that someone like Cody Rhodes could not be recognized for his contribution. We go to Forbes now, who've compiled quite a bit of information about what happened with Cody Rhodes in the latter days. Dave Meltzer of Wrestling Observer Radio recently reported there is a chatter within certain circles in WWE about the potential of Cody coming back to the company. Cody said in a recent interview for AEW, "I am working here without a contract, another handshake deal, because Tony Khan was not actually making any new signings and was not actually spending any more money." Cody Rhodes would himself release a statement shortly afterwards. Pause the video if you want to read the full thing. I'll just read the top part. "I have loved my time at AEW, amazing locker room, amazing fans, amazing people. The revolution was indeed televised, and I've been incredibly lucky to be part of that." Telling is the next line. "First, I want to thank Tony Khan. He's taken the baton and run with it, and it was my honour to work for him and to know him on a personal level." The structure of AEW was such that even though Cody Rhodes was a founder, Tony Khan was the one with all the power. The baton was taken and ran with. Cody Rhodes did not recognise the company he was working for. Cody Rhodes wouldn't really clarify why he left, but he would clarify why he didn't leave. WWE's Cody Rhodes says he didn't leave AEW due to CM Punk, Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. This is via Bleacher Report. In a recent post on social media, Cody Rhodes said he didn't leave AEW because of any issues with Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks. Rhodes wrote, "He is forever bonded to those men over what we created, and I remain very proud of it," speaking of the three members of the Elite. The American Nightmare also noted he didn't leave AEW because of CM Punk, nor did he have any issues with him. "We got along," Rhodes said of Punk. "Not money, not booking, just a personal issue and my wanting to go for the big one." And yes, in case you missed that, that is the founder of All Elite Wrestling, referring to the WWE Championship as the big one. I have to say, I don't think anyone has done more to build and demolish the AEW brand than Cody Rhodes. Once again, the most influential wrestler of the last decade. As first reported here on the Tom Colohue channel, Cody Rhodes did return to the WWE at WrestleMania 38 to face off with and defeat Seth Rollins. Via CBS Sports, WrestleMania 38, Cody Rhodes returns to WWE triumphantly as ex-AEW Vice President beats Seth Rollins. The man with the golden shovel, the man who smashed the golden throne with a golden sledgehammer. the most anti-Triple H and anti-WWE guy since CM Punk returned to the WWE in the same way that so many had done before. Those who are the loudest in hating WWE seem to always come back. Bret Hart came back. Jeff Jarrett came back. They always seem to return. Even Eric Bischoff had his moment with Vince McMahon. Cody Rhodes has crossed the line back to WWE. The former AEW executive vice president and a founding member of that company made good on significant speculation, appearing on night one of WrestleMania 38 as the opponent of Vince McMahon's choosing against Seth Rollins. Let's look at this from WWE's perspective for just a moment. The founding member, one of a very small amount, of All Elite Wrestling, the biggest competition they had ever faced, decided it was better off to be with them than against them, after making a whole character out of hating the WWE. After all of that, he decided WWE was his home all along. This is the moment the momentum shifted completely against AEW, and AEW have not recovered from this. The immediate impact wasn't immediately apparent. A lot of wrestlers who were potentially considering leaving WWE may have changed their minds, because clearly the grass wasn't actually greener on the other side if the founder has swapped sides. But it wasn't until a little bit later that we saw that WWE was where the grass is always greener now. WWE, this is via actual WWE.com. WWE signs Jade Cargill to multi-year deal. Jade Cargill, one of the jewels in the crown of AEW. WWE today announced it has signed Jade Cargill to a multi-year contract. The news was first reported by ESPN. The WWE claiming some of the absolute best names in AEW and some of the best free agents, and making it impossible for AEW to keep hold of their star attractions. We have to ask the question at this point, what of wrestlers such as Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley and Adam Cole, people who worked extremely well under Triple H, because a few months after Cody Rhodes returned, Vince McMahon was out the door and Triple H is now in charge. Triple H is the one making the changes. Now, AEW did still have one huge name, one person guaranteeing viewership and absolutely guaranteeing star attendances, allowing them to nearly sell out Wembley, and they knew for a fact he was going to stay. Except at Wembley, he got into a fight with Jack Perry and was fired because Nick Khan was scared for his life. CM Punk last night returned at Survivor Series, signing a new deal in the days preceding, literal days, shocking the world because even wrestling journalism and myself were caught out by this. I did not see this happening, and yet here we are with CM Punk returning at Survivor Series. Fired by AEW, another major name gone. Returning to WWE and bringing the viewership that came with him alongside. Cody Rhodes, swapping sides, made CM Punk essential to AEW. And now Cody Rhodes swapping back has made CM Punk essential to WWE. The landscape has forever been changed, and AEW are simply no longer a threat. Cody Rhodes is the most influential wrestler of the last decade. Shout out in the comments if you disagree. Tell me who else it might be. You might say CM Punk. You might say Roman Reigns. Cody Rhodes, for me, is the guy. He left WWE, literally walked away as a complete nobody, as Stardust, and forced the world to pay attention, forming a company that took the fight directly to WWE. And then, when the time was right, he abandoned it like rats deserting a sinking ship and went where the grass was greener. A founding member, making it clear to everyone in the indies and in AEW, WWE is still the place to be.